Now, let's discuss this. We're now joined via Zoom by a senior research fellow and a director at Africa-Asia Dialogues, Thembisa Fakude. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Now, just how serious are these charges potentially for Donald Trump? You know, he is the first former U.S. president to face criminal charges ever.
Well, they're very serious. Not only are they likely to end him in prison, but in terms of his legacy, he will be known henceforth as the first president of the United States to be indicted in this regard, and it might just be he might just be the first president of the United States to go to jail. So these are very serious. But on the other hand, knowing Donald Trump, he might just turn this in his favor. We are expecting protesters and some of his supporters coming from various parts of the United States tomorrow. We know that New York, of course, is not his strongest space, but there will be a lot of people coming from various parts of the United States, given, again, that it's the Easter weekend, who will be coming to support him. So he might just turn this into his favor as he begins to campaign for the re-elections come 2024 November.
Now, of course, we've just heard how security has been beefed up at several points where he will be traveling, particularly, of course, that Manhattan court. We've seen how Trump supporters have behaved in the past. You know, is this kind of security, is this kind of level expected one, given what may or may not happen during his appearance?
I think following January 6th event, when his supporters stormed the Capitol Hill, the police are much more prepared. But one, of course, hopes that nothing happens between the two sides, one that are against Donald Trump, who will also be protesting, and the pro-Donald Trump protesters. So hopefully there's going to be a semblance of peace of some sort. But yeah, the police are prepared, and correctly so, because, you know, Donald Trump's supporters have had the propensity in the past of being violent. Not only have they destroyed property in the past, particularly on January the 6th, but there are also a lot of people who are hurt in that march and protest when they stormed in Capitol Hill. So it's correct that the police are prepared this time around. But again, he is likely to turn this into his own favor as he begins to campaign.
And I mean, I'm still stuck at that. You know, that is very ambitious of him to then turn things around. But we know Donald Trump. Would he then still want to campaign and put himself out there, as the next U.S. president next year? And what are the chances? What are his chances?
Well, in 2016, he said that he could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue in New York, shoot someone, and lose no votes. And this is how confident he is. The thing is that Donald Trump has managed to create a movement, this Trumpism. The Republican Party, we've seen many of the Republican Party members refusing to condemn Donald Trump, even, of course, as he continues to deny that he lost the elections and continues to say that the elections are stolen from him. We have a lot of members of the Republican Party supporting that line. So he has created a movement, and this movement is very strong and is also likely to benefit other members of the Republican Party. So I think he's unlikely to lose any support. He might not gain more support, but he's unlikely to lose the current support base that he has at the moment.
I mean, the former district attorney of Manhattan shedding light there, you know, in terms of why Donald Trump why these charges weren't brought as early as 2016 where they happened, or even afterwards. And he's obviously said that he was approached by the Department of Justice to hold off on these charges. I mean, do you think then it would have been a problem? What's different to 2016 versus, 2023?
Well, that's why many people have said this. It looks like a witch hunt because they should have brought these charges long time ago. But of course, the long arm of the law, particularly in the United States, takes time. And I think the fact that they've brought these charges against Donald Trump, it means that they have enough evidence and they're confident enough that they will win this case. In 2016, it was difficult because he had just entered the White House. He was in charge, and he managed, by the way, to page a number of people, particularly those in the legal fraternity and judiciary in the United States. So chances were that he was going to try and force his way in terms of them going ahead in persecuting him. So I think this time around, the Attorney General, at least that one in New York, is quite confident that they've got a strong case, watertight case, and this might just land Donald Trump in prison.
And very interesting that you say that, because we do know that, Trump's former attorney, Michael Cohen, was the one that actually ended up in or behind bars, as a result of those payments, as we've said, to Ms. Daniels, back in the early 2016, 2017. So my question then is,
yes,
are we likely to see him back off and get away with it again? I mean, he had somebody fall for him the first time around. Is he likely to do that this time around, particularly as we've said in our intro that his lawyers have already said that he will plead not guilty?
Well, Malcolm Cohen is going to be one of the witnesses, but of course, it becomes a bit dicey because Michael Cohen has changed so many statements in the past. And he has been a foot soldier of Donald Trump, so his testimony might be questioned by the jury. But it's going to be interesting what's going to happen when Trump appears. But suffice to say that this is not going to go away anytime soon. There are many other charges that are waiting for Donald Trump, but this one in particular, the confidence that you see, particularly from Alvin Bragg, who's the Attorney General, they seem quite confident that this time around they have him, and they're going to find him guilty, and he might just land up in prison. But whether that is going to dash his ambitions of becoming the next president of the United States or continuing while the trial continues to campaign, we'll have to wait and see. But Donald Trump, being Donald Trump, we are likely to see him continuing, and he's going to certainly turn this into his favor, particularly that most of his supporters are really convinced that he's the right man for the job.
Well, I can certainly tell you that the Manhattan court is going to be a hive of activity when he does appear tomorrow. Thank you so much, Mr. Fakude, for your time this afternoon and, of course, your analysis. That's Director at Africa-Asia Dialogues.